It's been quite a tough year, I think, for all of us. And the truth is, it's not over yet. We'll be having more forums to keep you updated on the COVID situation, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But we're still in the middle of this. There are many changes that we'll have to go through. But I want to make sure we're still together on this journey, and IDF will continue to support you every step of the way. I wanted to do something a little bit different and that we've done at any other forum, but just to maybe take 30 seconds to be quiet and reflect on those who we might have lost last year, those that are still here with us, and to be grateful, for what we have in our lives today, and an opportunity for us to connect with each other. So let's just, be quiet, for a few seconds and kind of think about those that might not be with us here. And also, a few things to be grateful for. Thank you. And, good thoughts from IDF going to, our entire community. And we will see this, continuing unprecedented time, together. I want you to remember that we are more committed than ever to serving our community as, we continue to face very challenging times. We'll be here serving as your trusted resource, working to ensure that you have all the tools and resources, to live better lives, and to continue, to bring us together in the spirit of wellness, information, and education. As part of fulfilling our mission this year, there's no stopping us. We will have a national conference like we've done before every other year. We are fully committed to making sure that we are on track for our annual conference. There's no stopping us now, might be the theme. And you will be able to join thousands of community members late June, and we'll be able to celebrate each other's journey. But also, we're not going to wait until June, of course, to continue what we've been doing. We have forums that will be offered throughout the year and throughout this month. And in fact, we're going to end up actually with 4 forums in the next 2 weeks. We have, our forum for the evening for tonight. Tomorrow, we're having a youth forum for our younger audience. They prefer Fridays. And it's more of a social kind of gathering for our youth to be able to get together. January 21st, an important date, and will be a forum with a COVID-19 update and a very technical and well-informed, up-to-the-minute update on vaccines. So I think, and Kathy will, talk a little bit about this a little later, but after tonight, registration will be open if it's not open already. I'll let, Kathy cover that after I'm done here. And then on the 28th of January, we'll be focusing on advocating for your child's health based on today's environment. So for those of you who are parents, it'll be an excellent forum with plenty of information. So having said that, I think I am ready to be quiet here and hand it back to our host, Kathy Antilla.
Thank you, Hector. And as Hector said, we do have some very important forums coming up, and registration is open. So thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you, Hector, for that wonderful welcome. We are fortunate to be able to offer these forums to our community due to our wonderful sponsors. Our 2020 sponsors include CSL Behring, Grifols, and Takeda, our core service leaders, core service supporter, Octapharma, core service sustainer, Horizon Therapeutics, core services contributor, Leadiant Biosciences, and ADMA Biologics, national sustainer, Accredo, national patrons, Diplomat Specialty Infusion, Kedrion Biopharma, CVS Specialty, Quorum CVS Specialty Infusion Services, Koru Special Medical Systems, and Kaba Fusion, and Solio Health. So many of our sponsors, as you know, have plasma donation centers, and I do we all encourage you to check those out during this time to find out how we can make a difference. Now, at this time, I would like to invite Ellen from CSL Behring for a quick word from our sponsor.
Okay, can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Ellen DiGirolamo. Thank you for the introduction, Kathy. I'm one of the area managers at CSL Behring, and I represent our immunoglobulin products, both Hizentra, our 20% subcutaneous IG therapy, and also Privigen, our 10% IVIG product. And I just want to take this time to, again, thank the IDF for continuing to host these very important online forums and for adjusting, last year and continuing on into 2021 to this virtual environment. So the community can continue to learn from each other and support one another during this very challenging time. And I feel very lucky to be attending another one of Becky's presentations. They're always my favorite. And so just thank you for having me.
Thank you, Ellen.
Thanks.
Now I would like to invite Christine from Grifols for a quick word from our sponsor.
Sorry about that. Anyway, hi everyone, nice to see you. Hector, what you said really stuck with me, so thank you for that. But anyway, my name is Christine Lishinsky. I am with Grifols in the Los Angeles area, and it's nice to see everyone. Happy 2021. I hope everyone is healthy and happy. I'm feeling appreciative today to be part of this powerful and big-hearted community. Over the holidays, I reflected on 2020, and I felt so proud that the IDF was able to pull off so many successful educational events for hundreds of patients and families, and maybe even thousands, but through many obstacles. So here's to a successful 2021, wishing everybody more success, health, and happiness. So thank you.
Thank you, Christine. And now I would like to introduce our presenter, Rebecca Wang, and we know her as Becky. Becky is a licensed professional counselor who has assisted clients in effecting positive life changes through her work in a variety of clinical settings. Becky and her family have been longtime members of our community, and we are always pleased to welcome her back. So welcome, Becky.
Thank you so much. I'm always so happy to be back with this community, and I recognize so many great familiar faces here. And so doing these presentations definitely kind of feels like just a piece of home for me, even though we're so far apart from each other. And so I'm grateful for this opportunity to be here with you this evening. So tonight we're going to talk about, you might think we were going to talk about New Year's resolutions, but I'm going to put a different spin on it tonight. And we're going to talk about anti-New Year's resolutions. And I'm going to explain what those are as we dive in a little bit. So most of you have probably seen me by now, so you know this spiel, but for those of you who don't, I live in mid-Michigan, where today it was 40 degrees and sunny, so I'll take it. I am definitely a lover of the beach and baseball, and I'm certainly hoping to get more of that in my life this year. I've been a licensed professional counselor for about 15 years now, and it's definitely something that is near and dear to my heart, and being able to be a part of this community and use my passion, my skills to help all of you is something that I'm so grateful for. I'm the mom of 2 young men who are basically adults now, 17 and 19. We've been a member of the IDF family for over 12 years. The last forum that I did was talking about gratitude. And so I left this in there because it resonates what somebody was just saying about, you know, what we're grateful for. And I'm definitely grateful for my gifts that allow me to help others, the water, coffee, and definitely good smelling candles. So those are some things to take into 2021. So this is my connection to PI, for those of you who don't know. That's my son, Christian. On the right there, Christian was 5 years old when he was finally diagnosed, and that was the day of his first IVIG treatment next to his immunologist. And on the left, that was our baseball season, or at a Tigers game a couple of seasons ago. And so that's my connection to PI, so being a PI mom. So tonight, some of our learning objectives are going to be that we're going to learn the concepts of New Year's resolutions, or actually the anti-resolutions, and how they do have an impact on our overall physical and emotional health. We're going to be able to discuss some usable strategies to create some attainable goals and anti-resolutions. And hopefully we're going to continue to propel this new year into the coming months with an open mind and a healthy start. So when we think about New Year's resolutions, I'm probably one of the first people that at the end of the previous year, I'm already making a gigantical list of all the things I'm going to do or not do in the next year. And it sounds really great at the time, and they're really ambitious. But the problem is, oftentimes I fill that page up with things that, what I've discovered, end up being kind of boring. Things that, yeah, I'd probably like to do, but am I really going to do them? And if I am going to do them, how long does it typically last? Usually I start off really strong and really motivated with that new year, new me mentality. Like, all right, this year in particular was pretty strong because we're all anxious to put 2020 behind us and thinking 2021 has got to be better. So after doing some thinking about this, I decided that I didn't want to set any resolutions like I had in the past, and I wanted to tackle this year with kind of a different strategy. Well, then I got to thinking and doing a little actual research about resolutions. And the reality is, when we set a resolution, typically it has a start date, maybe January 1st, and oftentimes our resolutions have some kind of concrete end date. Like, by the end of this year, I'm going to do this. In 6 months, I'm going to lose this much weight. I'm going to exercise every day for the whole year. And sometimes when we do that and we set resolutions that have concrete start and end dates, there's nothing wrong with that. The only problem with that becomes if we're really trying to implement a positive change in our life, positive changes really don't have end dates to them. They're things hopefully we'd like to continue. So I'm going to give you some strategies today to help you do just that. Now, some of our common resolutions that many of us set are things like weight loss, working out more, eating healthier, maybe reducing our debt, saving money, being nicer to the people that we love. The next bullet, I didn't mean stop eating. It should have said stop eating junk food. So none of us should be doing that goal anyways, but nonetheless, we all do this. We're guilty of setting these same kinds of resolutions every year. And I don't know about you, but right around mid-February is when I'm about done with those resolutions. So this is exactly what I do. I say to myself, this is the year, right? Like last year, so 2020, we're all giving ourselves a pass for 2020. Like if we just woke up the next day, I'm counting that as a win, right? So this year, I'm like, all right, this is the year I'm going to stick to these things. 2020 is behind us. Now I'm going to focus. I'm going to start this off wrong. But there's something that they actually call, with some research, the February 1st curse. Because statistically speaking, most people within 6 weeks of the new year have already given up on their resolution. So sometimes we feel that like something bad might happen or something does come up that maybe gets us off track from our goal, for example. So then we're just like, oh, never mind, I'll start again next year, instead of kind of picking ourselves back up and continuing on that goal. So there's a solution to this. And the solution is, part of it is, if you're sick of writing down the same 3 to 4 resolutions that kind of fizzle out each year, we're just going to try new things. So what if instead of adopting like 1 million goals for 2021, we just joined the anti-New Year's resolution movement and just focused on simply trying something new in the new year? So this is where the concept of anti-New Year's resolutions kind of kick in for us. So what do I mean by that? So rather than beating ourselves up when our resolutions fizzle out maybe by February, instead, the idea is that we try to think of things that we would love to do instead of thinking of things that we don't like doing. So one of the things that I'm guilty of is I'll set a healthy eating goal and I'll say, I'm going to cut out all caffeine and all sugar and all sweets. Well, I love all of those things. So probably not very sustainable for me, and it hasn't been. So instead, maybe a better resolution or anti-resolution would be to just have some of those things in moderation, or to kind of space that out differently. Another idea is to set words of the year to guide you. This is one of my favorite things to do at the beginning of every year. I pick 1 or 2 words that just become the focus of my intention for the rest of the year. This year, I've chosen the words intention and joy. And so everything that I'm doing or trying to do in my life, I always filter through, what is my intention? Am I doing this with intention? And is it bringing me joy to do that thing? And then, of course, when you start to set any goals or any anti-New Year's resolutions, identify your why. The why is this thing important to me? Did somebody else tell me I have to do this, or I should do this, or I'm thinking I don't want to do this? Those are things that probably aren't going to stick with us for very long. But if it's something that you can think about in terms of, why would I want to eat less cake and drink less coffee? I don't know. But my why might be because I do want to be healthier, because I want to live a very long and fulfilling life with my kiddos and be the healthiest, best mom that I can be. So that why is really powerful to me, because that will keep me motivated. So we're going to start and dive in, and I'm going to give you 12 tips or 12 things that you could try in 2021. And a lot of these things are maybe kind of outside the box things that maybe you hadn't considered, or maybe you have, and they might give you some new ideas for how to tackle those things. So the first one being, stop setting goals you won't accomplish. I don't know about you, but every time I set a goal about something that I know darn well I'm not cutting out all the things that I love, although I have intentions to do that on January 1st because I'm going to be super fit and healthy, I know that that's probably not going to work out for me. So, and when it doesn't work out for me, then I get really discouraged. And then I feel really bad because, well, I couldn't stick to that thing. So it's super important to stop setting those goals in the areas that we're not serious about, or that are just really huge goals. And there's not to say there's anything wrong with huge goals. It's just that if there are things that you're not really pumped about, we're not going to set those kinds of goals. Everyone sets a million goals, but maybe it's time to rethink the goals that we do set. So one of the things that you could do is to take a moment to reflect on the goals that you didn't accomplish last year. And with that, maybe it's, you know, there's one thing that I didn't get to last year that I really do want to bring into 2021. And also, I want to point out that if you had a bunch of goals or any goals for last year, recognizing that it's okay to not have completed a single one of them. And so I'm always reminded that in particular last year was a very difficult year for all of us. And so if the best thing we did was survived, then that again is an absolute win. But when you do set some goals, a great strategy is to try to limit yourself to setting just 2 or 3 bigger goals rather than a whole bunch, because then you can place your focus on something specific. The second strategy is implement one change and master it. So don't implement other things until you've mastered the first one that you've decided on. I've shared before that research suggests it takes somewhere between 18 to 21 days to create a new habit. And so that means you have to consistently do something 18 to 21 days worth in order for that thing to be more solidified, to become that habit for us. So one of the things that you might choose to do is, I'm going to take my vitamins every day. So if that's one of your goals, then work toward just that. Don't add anything else to it. See if you can get that down for those 18 to 21 days. Or maybe another example would be, make it a point to tell your loved ones that you love them each and every day. Go for a 5-minute walk each day. Maybe the goal is to shower every day or to eat a fruit or vegetable each day. So just pick something, and it doesn't have to be monumental, but these small things add up to big things. And so the idea here is pick one, get really good at implementing it and making it a habit in your life, and then you can incorporate more as you go. The third one, I included one here for those of us who might be interested in trying to change up our foods or how we eat or all that kind of stuff. And so, as I said earlier, one of the things that I tend to go into the new year with is, oh, I'm going to cut out all the things that I love and I'm changing every meal and I'm going to eat healthy for every meal. For me personally, that hasn't been very sustainable. So instead, some more helpful strategies that I'm actually trying. I try to practice what I preach. Instead of saying I'm going to eat healthy every meal and I'm not turning back, maybe we just make a plan to change 5 meals per week. So for me personally, I'm actually living this one in real time. And what I find is when I say that maybe Monday through Friday, I'm going to try to stick to my plan. And then on Saturday and Sunday, I'll still be mindful. But if I want that cake, I'm going to have the cake. And so that makes me more motivated to stick with it throughout the week. What I find is when I say I'm going to do it all week long and every meal is going to be perfect, it's unrealistic for me and it causes me to burn out and then I fail. And nobody likes that feeling. So if we decided one way to do this was to change up a few meals per week, those simple little adjustments really add to our success. And those little successes add up to big successes over time. So this one's a little bit outside of the box. And so this solution or this tip for your resolution or anti-resolution setting comes from the folks who often say, you know what, I want to work on me. I want to work on complaining less or nagging my partner or my children or my coworkers. Like, I really want to be better about not complaining. So here's an actual solution for how you can do that. So a solution to complaining is you. You're the only one that can fix that. And so how you might do it is you make a commitment toward no more complaining or whining and excuses, because complaining, as you know, and venting drains our energy and other people. And so sometimes the situations we complain about often don't get better with more complaining. They just make us a little more salty about it. But if you do have a valid complaint that you need to voice, here's a good rule to follow. You can only voice the complaint if you also provide 2 solutions to go along with that problem. So the natural course of just finding a solution is positive in nature. So if you think to yourself, if maybe one of the goals you want to implement is, I do want to kind of complain or vent a little less. So the next time you want to vent or complain, you have to have 2 solutions to come with that. So if you get irritated that your partner throws their, dirty clothes on the bedroom floor and doesn't pick them up, and you just want to nag or complain about that, so you have to come up with 2 solutions. So you might say to your partner, when you throw your dirty clothes on the bedroom floor, it bothers me. Another solution might be, here's a hamper for you, or why don't you throw those in the washing machine instead? So you're an active part of the solution. And solutions drive positivity, and it makes you feel better. Number 5 is to do a 30-day vice challenge. I'm a big fan of this one. Instead of saying I'm going to do these things like for 12 months and I'm going to be perfect at it, which is hard to do, maybe pick something for 30 days to try. So for example, maybe you decide no alcohol for 30 days, or no eating out for 30 days, or avoiding sweets for 30 days, or I'm not going to spend any extra money for the next month. Or maybe you even look at it a different way and say that you're going to pay off $5 in debt every day for a month. And so remember, it takes 21 days to create a habit. And so if you do this for a whole month, this can turn into something that ends up being more long-term, even if you didn't intend for it to start that or to end that way when you started. Number 6, delete one social media app. So you could do this as part of a 30-day challenge, like I just mentioned. Check it out and see how much time you spend on social media. I don't know about you, but I have an Apple phone, and my Apple phone with the last few updates will tell you in a nifty screen how much time you spend every day doing different functions on your phone. And social media has its own little category, and how much screen time you have. Well, for a while there, I kind of just flipped it off and I didn't pay much attention to it. Well, recently I went back to work in an office setting, and on Sundays, my little screen time usage thing pops up, and it was like, hey, your screen time usage dropped 80%. And I was like, whoa, maybe I better check out how much time I was spending on social media. And it was way more than I ever thought I was. So a good helpful tip is to pick maybe a social media app and just either delete it altogether for 30 days and see if you can live without it. Or maybe you just make a goal to, if you find yourself spending a lot of time on Facebook, for example, maybe you just decide you're only going to check it once a day instead of like the 100 times I probably check it a day sometimes. Or you can move your apps to different folders on your phone, and that can kind of hide them so that you're not tempted maybe to check on them as often. So number 7 goes along with that. Stay off your phone. Now, when I was contemplating including this slide, I was like having trouble breathing. I was like, I don't know if I could do this one. But again, when I present strategies to folks, I am a big proponent of doing what I teach people or suggest to people to do. So I've really been working at this one. So the idea is to try to put your phone away. I had a friend once tell me we were out and we were enjoying some beautiful scenery on a hike, and I was stopping every few minutes and I was taking pictures and I was posting it to social media. And she said to me, you're missing it all by doing this. You're not present in the moment. And that was really an eye-opener for me, because she was absolutely right. And so place your phone somewhere where you can't get to it if you're trying to enjoy time with friends, family, doing an activity you enjoy, especially when you're driving. Challenge yourself maybe not to bring your phone to dinner with you. I have good friends who, when they go out to dinner with anyone, their group of friends puts their phones in a basket on the table, and the first person to touch their phone has to buy dinner for the group. So I thought that was a pretty fun strategy. If you're able to, like, leave your phone at home or in the car, especially if you've got other folks with you that could call for an emergency, it just limits the temptation if you can. Set those limits for times that you spend on those apps per day. I've been really, like I said, trying this. So I give myself like a 30-minute limit before bed to just kind of check out my apps, and I'm trying to stick with it. Monitor that screen time usage. You might be surprised at how much time you spend doing various things on your phone. Recognize when you're using your phone out of boredom. That's probably my biggest phone trigger, is when, you know, I'm bored or in between meetings or getting ready to fall asleep, you know, I'll flip through my phone, but that time adds up. And then finally, listen to your body's cues about when to take a break. And so if your fingers are starting to hurt, your neck is cramping up, you're getting a headache, chances are you might have been on your phone a little bit too long. So just challenge yourself to maybe use it a little bit less and be in the present moment more. Number 8, enjoy life more. If there's anything that 2020 taught me with all of the things that we have been through, it is that certainly we should not take any day, any moment for granted. And that when we say things like, oh, I'll do that tomorrow, oh, I'll do that next year, I'll do that when I have more money, I'll do that when I'm retired, I'll take that trip another time. This year really taught me that, you know, sometimes tomorrow doesn't come, or what we plan just doesn't work out that way. And so why save for tomorrow what we can do right now? But with that, try not to associate fun with just money and vacations and nights out, because we can enjoy life because there's beauty all around us, and there's all sorts of things if only we look. Challenge yourself maybe to think about ways you had fun as a kid. Everywhere you go, just make it a small goal to make it fun. Maybe you people watch while you're sitting in traffic, or you tell old stories with your family and just laugh about those things. Or one of the things that we have done is, you know, on Tuesdays, my kids and I used to have Tuesday taco nights, and we'd have a picnic on like the living room floor. That was something that we always did when my kids were small. And even though we're all separated right now due to COVID stuff, we all get on Zoom and we still have our Taco Tuesday fortnight. So they sit in their living rooms on the floor and have tacos in their space, and I do too. So that's really fun for us. And then learn to enjoy the simple things that really count in 2021. I know things like going to enjoy a cup of coffee out with my friends means so much more to me now. Like, I take so much less for granted. And so, you know, just really appreciating those things. Number 9 is to attack one fear. So for this year, pick something that you're fearful of, whatever that might be, and try to work to overcome it. When you think about fears and when you talk about fears, it's scary, right? We have fears of all sorts of things, just like anyone. But like when you were a kid, I don't know if any of you were like this, but I used to have a basement growing up, and when I'd have to go down and get the laundry or something, I was always scared of like the monster in the basement. So I would climb down, I would go down the stairs really quietly, and I'd reach my hand around the corner as far as it could go to like flip the light switch on to make sure the monster wasn't there. And then I'd run upstairs as fast as I could. And the reality is that kind of got the best of me when I was a kid. And so one of the things that you can do is think about fear as false evidence appearing real. meaning essentially the monster in the basement wasn't going to jump out at me when I turned the light on. If there really was a monster, he would have gotten me when I was eating popcorn earlier in the day playing video games, like upstairs. He wasn't going to wait for me to come downstairs to change the laundry. So that wasn't something that was going to happen, but it felt real to me. So all of our fears are kind of like that. It feels real to you. So the thought of going after your fears can be a fear itself. So a tip for this is to think about a fear that you have. And so the example I put there is, I fear being the go-to person at work because I work with lots of people. If I were the go-to person, oh my goodness, there's lots of folks who would need my help. And that sometimes is overwhelming. So what you can do when you have a fear is rewrite the fear backwards with a consequence. So I gave an example there. So it can start with, if I don't become the go-to person at work, then blank will happen. So when I think about that, what would happen if I don't become the go-to person? Well, I don't know what would happen if I'm not that person. Maybe they wouldn't bother me. I wouldn't be helpful to my coworkers. Maybe I wouldn't feel as satisfied in my work. So then when I start to go down that path, I'm like, well, then why don't I want to be the go-to person? Because it doesn't sound like what I want to do. So you basically just flip it. If I don't do this fear, then what will happen? And that's a good way to kind of attack the fear in a backward sort of way. Number 10, be okay with being bored. Now, this is kind of an interesting one because for me, at least in 2020, there was lots of stuff that I remember saying, man, this is really boring. We can't do anything. We can't go anywhere. And so I was kind of sick of being bored. I'm still kind of sick of being bored. However, when I realized, and when you think about the fact of 5% of our life is the highlight reels, like the really good stuff that happens in our life. 5% of our life is the really yucky bad stuff. And 90% of our life is the everyday, the in-between. It's the, I got up today, maybe I get the kids ready, I take them to school, I go to work all day, I pick them up, I come home, make dinner, do homework, I do some extra work, and then I go to bed. And then I do the same thing tomorrow. So what happens? Then I go, oh my gosh, I'm so bored. I'm really bored. But we have to remember that 90% is pretty much most of our everyday. And so the idea is to learn to embrace the everyday. What's the joy in it? There's a great book that's based on mindfulness and meditation. And one of the lines in the book says, to do the dishes, to do the dishes. And I hate doing the dishes. I don't know about you, but that's like my least favorite chore. And when I read that, I was like, what are they trying to say? And what I realized was I often do the dishes as quickly as possible after they've stacked up for far too long. And then I will do the dishes, but I do it as quickly as I can to race on to the next thing I'm going to do. And the idea in the book was that even in the midst of doing those everyday tasks that might seem boring, there can be cool things if only we look for it, or there can be things to appreciate about the experience. And so even though I hate doing the dishes, when I do them, I try to appreciate, like I buy the best smelling dish soap. So when I do the dishes, I'm like, oh, that smells great. Or I spend that time listening to some really good music while I do the dishes and just enjoy that. So, do a task just simply to do the task and find the good in it. When you realize that boredom is just a part of life and you don't need to be constantly engaged, you start looking at things with a really different approach. So you end up with learning more, seeing things for what they are, developing grit, bouncing back and developing resilience. We smile more and we feel more relieved when we do this. So the takeaway here is to find something good in every task or in every day that even if it might otherwise seem boring, that you're like, I'm glad I got to pick the kids up today, even though that was a cut in the middle of a work day for me, because I don't always get that time. So find something good there. Number 11 is change your association. And what I mean by this is being really intentional about the people that we give our energy and our time to. And so a couple of strategies to do this are, the first one is to create a list of all the people in your life that you associate with. Like everybody, you just brainstorm a whole entire list, from coworkers to acquaintances, friends, family. Make your whole list. For most folks, it's quite a few people. Then what you do is you use the 3-3-3 rule to identify your top 5 and your not top 5. So the 3-3-3 rule is, after you make your list, you label the people on there that are the 3-minute people. And the 3-minute people are people that you might just normally say hi and bye to, but you really don't want to spend any time around them more than that. And then you kind of label your list about the 3-hour people. 3-hour people are people you can spend an evening with, but you don't really need to hang out with them every single day. And then you identify the 3-day people. And those should be about the 4 or 5 people on your list who you would want to and should spend most of your time with, because these people are the ones that make your life better. And so when you make the list and you kind of sort it out a little bit, the idea here is that we invest our time and energy to those top people to the best of our ability. Those are the people who fill our buckets. Those are probably the same people that we fill their buckets. And then we have a tendency with this strategy to kind of weed out those folks who, maybe they take up a lot of time and space in our life, but they're not adding maybe a lot of value, or so we just want to pay attention to where our time and energy goes. So this is a good strategy for that. Number 12, leave 2020 in the rear view mirror. And I know all of us, myself included, just want to forget that was ever a thing. We do see some carryover right now, but I do have hope that this year will be better. And so how do we do that? Well, we do that by reflecting on and learning from 2020. What did we learn? There were some really yucky things that happened in my life in 2020, but there were also some really great things. Although my son had to come home from college several months early, he got to come home and stay with me. And I got to have every day with him from March until August. And I never would have had that time with him had it not been for the pandemic. And so some of my friends and family from out of state, we found more creative ways to connect with one another that we probably never would have done had it not been for the pandemic. And so really think about, as yucky as the past year was, what are some good things that came out of this or that I'm taking from it? Reflect on, where did you struggle the most in the year? How did you grow? What went well for you? And appreciate how much you learned, how much we grew, because we grow through challenges, and we all had challenges. And we challenged ourselves and we connected. And even in these forums, just taking this by itself, the amount of connection that has happened in these forums is absolutely a blessing. It's okay if the last 365 days were difficult. I don't think I know a soul who said last year was phenomenal. And so it's okay. And we're just going to acknowledge that and just say, yep, that was tough. And so here's to making the next 365 days all the better. Okay, so I'm not sure what all occurred in the other breakout rooms, but it kind of struck me in mind. We were discussing, there was some conversation about, I kind of started this presentation thinking, gosh, like, should I feel bad about myself that I hadn't set any resolutions for the year? And the answer is no. No, you should not. And so I think that's exactly what this presentation sort of speaks to, is that we're trying to get out of the habit of even setting them in the first place, but rather looking at ways that we can improve our life because we want to, because there are areas that we think we could do some work on to make us feel better. And if there are, great. And if you're like, I am really good where I'm at, that is okay too. So when we think about those kinds of things, again, remembering whether you do or don't set them, that's your preference. However, if you decide to try any of these things, here's some helpful strategies for you. If you make a commitment to do anything in your life, write it down. Writing it down helps to get it out of your brain and onto a piece of paper. And so it becomes a little more concrete. Make some reminders about whatever that thing is that you're trying to do if you need to. Have an accountability partner. So when I am trying to change those 5 meals a week instead of the 7 and not have cake in the 5 days, I have a friend who I'm like, I really want to eat the cake. And she's like, no, don't do it. Like, this is your goal. So when you tell someone else and they can help hold you accountable, it makes me at least more likely to stick to that goal. So again, tell somebody that you're doing it. Even if you have a goal of, I want to make sure to tell my family that I love them every day. Tell somebody else that that's your intention so that they can check on you and say, hey, this was something really important to you. How you doing on that? Reward yourself for your successes. So on those 5 days, I might not eat the cake, but maybe if I've made it through all 5 days, on the 6th or 7th day, maybe I do have a small piece of cake. And if you slip on some kind of a thing that you're trying and you mess up or you don't, you're not able to do it in that moment, don't allow yourself to slide all the way back down the mountain. So what I mean by that is as you're climbing up the mountain and working on your goals, if I happen to eat the chocolate cake, maybe I just have the piece of chocolate cake instead of having the entire pan of chocolate cake, and then try again tomorrow. And so the idea is that we fall forward and keep making forward progress on the things that we love and that matter to us, as opposed to the things that don't. So thank you so much for spending this time with us tonight and for thinking about what kinds of things you might want to implement in your life. So if there are questions, I'm happy to answer those at this time.
Thank you. Thank you, Becky. What a wonderful, wonderful, positive way to start 2021. And we do have a question here. It is, how can I encourage a family member or friend to join me in setting up a resolution?
Good question. So I think one of the ways that you might do that is obviously having a conversation, and maybe the two of you talk about the things that are important to each one of you. And so maybe both of you don't want to run, I don't know, a mile every day, but maybe you both want to incorporate more exercise into your life. So maybe you find a way that you can do that in a way that both of you can participate together. Or maybe you get inspired by thinking about, why do we want to have this goal? Or why is your goal or resolution important to you? Why is it important to me? And sometimes that generates some motivation when you've got some forward momentum going on, those kinds of conversations.
And this next thing here is not a question, it's a comment, and it says, I think Becky is terrific.
Thank you. I think all of you are so terrific. This is when we talk about resolutions of spending your time in the places that feel really valuable. This community is definitely that place, and you certainly fill my heart. Thank you.
And if there are no more questions, I will take a little, there will be a couple more questions, but first I am going to, before we continue, like to invite Carl Trentz from Octapharma for a quick word from our sponsor. Carl, just feel free to unmute yourself and take it away.
All righty. Well, Happy New Year. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All righty. Coming in loud and clear. Well, first off, I typed a comment, but Becky, that was an awesome presentation. I think we should record you and put you on YouTube because I can think of a lot of people that would benefit from that. I must admit, when I heard the topic, I wasn't sure, but you had me captivated like all of us. And so thanks very much. Some really good pearls of wisdom. Really on behalf of Octapharma and more than now 10,000 global employees, we just wish a happy new year to the PI community. We realize that we all went through some changes last year, but I give you the best that Octapharma has, and that is we're going to continue to do every day to make your lives a little easier from the standpoint of the way that we look to collect plasma. And really, it's the whole industry, it's not Octapharma. But I just, in closing, wanted to say, you know what? Many of us miss these meetings, and I think our cup ran a little bit low. But tonight, seeing everybody, my friends in the community, my friends from industry, my cup's filled back up, and I thank you all. Have a good weekend. Bye.
Thank you, Carl. And now I would like to invite Sean McCabe from Takeda for a quick word from our sponsor.
Hi, Kathy. It's Dana. I'm actually going to cover for Sean. I told him to put his kids to bed and said, I want to hear Becky. So I kicked my boss out and I told him, I got this. Go take your kids, put them to bed, and enjoy that time with them. That was his resolution this year, is to spend more time with his kids at bedtime. So Becky, as always, I love listening to you. I'd also love to know if you have a soap or a dish soap that you've found that is good enough for teenagers. Because I heard that and I wrote it down. I was like, is there one that works for teenagers? Because if so, I'd like it, being a mom of 3 of them. So everybody, Dana Flathammer from Takeda. I'm lucky enough to lead the My IG Source Advocates. I can't say it enough. IDF, tremendous job in 2020. And when I look at 2020, I really do look at it and think, how lucky are we that we were able to just flip this so quickly and be a part of a community in a really hard year. I didn't feel alone. I mean, there were days that I did, but every time I did, we were back together. So like Carl, I know I missed this over the holiday season, which does a tremendous amount. I think second, I think all of our industry partners, and I love when Carl said this, I think we miss each other. We missed you guys. You are the people that we serve. And we are tremendously lucky to be able to hear this, to be a part of it, but also to continue to serve. I mean, that's why we're here. And so kudos to IDF, kudos to our industry partners. It's fun when we end up in breakout rooms together because we get to share ideas and do that kind of fun stuff. And it doesn't matter who you work for or whether you are living with PI or not living with PI, we all learn from each other. So tremendous job, everybody. And Becky, love these. Let's keep these going. Can't wait for the next one. Thanks, Kathy.
Thank you, Dana. Now, question, can we get a copy of the presentation? And we are recording it tonight. And as soon as it's posted on YouTube, we will let you know. And absolutely, you will be able to view it there. Plus, when you get that email, a copy of the slides will be attached. So you'll have those also. Any other questions? Send them now. Becky, did we want to review, before we finish up here, did we want to review, if we don't have any more questions, how each breakout group went? Any comments from that group?
Sure, absolutely.
Do you want to take a lead on that?
Sure, like did any, I wasn't part of it group 1 or 3, but did anyone want to share something that like they really are taking away from this, something they might want to try or they have tried and it worked well?
And if you want to just type it into the chat to IDF Forums, you can. Otherwise, Becky, you were in my group and I was so impressed just listening to people talking about, I'm conquering my fear of public speaking, somebody said, and they go, and look at me now, I'm here, I'm speaking in public. I thought that was amazing. Or I'm afraid to go on a cruise. Well, I guess I don't have to worry about that this year. And, it was upbeat. People were talking too about being bored and saying, this pandemic has been a good thing because I like being with myself. I like, I was in the public eye for work for so many years, and here I am now, and I reach out to people who I think might be lonely during this time, and just so many positive things. Becky, anything to add about the group we were in, and other moderators? Do you want to unmute yourself and share something from your group?
Yes, so there was one other group and I was in there moderating, and it was really awesome. I was in the room with some of our industry reps, and we were talking a bit about how we would step away from our phones because our phones used to dominate our lives, unfortunately. So thank you, Becky, for reminding us about that, and how we should definitely step back. How sometimes we would, we think a lot about work now just because there is no separation. And so one of our breakout room attendees mentioned how they have a stop sign to remind them that work stops at a certain time when you're not going to go in there and grab your iPad. So that was great. We had someone share how they tried the one complaint to solution step, and they had a really hilarious scenario that I think shows us how some of us are more disciplined than others, especially when it comes to husbands and their laundry. So that was wonderful. And we kind of finished talking a little bit about reflecting on the good that might have come from 2020. And it's definitely great to see how we all share these different experiences, but we all want to be positive and think about those good things. I think if you have more that you'd like to share, those who were in my group, the chat is open publicly, so feel free to do that, but it was definitely great.
I would just add that I'm always so inspired by all the things that come out of these breakouts, and all of you have such great ideas or ways that you want to kind of just implement this positivity into your life. And so again, just take with you the idea that any of these anti-resolutions don't have to be anything super monumental. And just like many of you have said or reflected, it can be as simple as, you know what, I just want to make it a goal of mine to text somebody every morning just to tell them how much I appreciate them. Or maybe your goal is, I want to get outside for 5 minutes during the day. Anything that might add value to your life. And so I challenge you to find something that you can take into this year with you and find the good.
Thank you. Thank you, Becky. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing and inspiring us for this brand new year. And thank you, everybody, for participating in the groups and sending your comments and questions. And thank you to our sponsors. We hope everybody enjoyed hearing from them this evening. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. We look forward to seeing you next time. Meanwhile, take care and be safe. Good night.